Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I know I'm standing in between your lunch and this session is the only thing which is standing. But before I first thank you very much for 3AI and Samir for giving this opportunity. And I don't want to be a cautionary person as such when so many people have talked about the 3AI and importance and adoption in your businesses. But security definitely plays a very key role when you go about doing this. Before I get started, right, I want you to imagine, right, imagine you are driving a Ferrari, right? Driving a Ferrari, pick a highway, you are on a highway, engine is roaring, and you're enjoying, the ride is thrilling, for example, right? And you look at your beautiful steering, and you don't see those two words, airbags. How do you feel? Right? How do you feel? What is your experience? Your whole exciting experience turns out to be something like the question, am I safe? Am I safe, right? So similarly, that Ferrari, what you're imagining, is the generative AI initiative in your organization, right? It is there to enhance your business. It is there to ensure that you, sorry, let me take this. So enhance your business and look at the productivity, what it's going to provide to your business. But you also have to ensure, as you go through this journey and adopt this technology, you need to consider one important part, security, right? Many organizations who are aggressively adopting this technology, they're also zipping past this key element of security. Why do we say that, right? So there was a survey which was done late last year by IBM and a few more other companies. I think something which came out which is very interesting and a little bit worrisome as well, right? This survey was done with some of the senior executives of different companies. The question was asked, like, for adapting generative AI, what's your concerns? What is that which is stopping you from doing this, right? So some of the people who came, only 12% of the enterprises have a security strategy for adapting generative AI. There is only 26% of their generative AI projects have actually accounted for something called security in their components, right? 70% of them think innovation takes precedence over security. This is worrisome, right? So the conversation is not about innovation or security or Gen AI or security. The conversation is more about and conversation here, right? Why do we say so? Because in the last year itself, after the advent of generative AI, the threats have gone up 3x. And when the threats have gone up by 3x, and why do we say so is because of the very simple reason that these threats are aided by generative AI. Cybersecurity is a very interesting world. Many of the businesses, when they adopt such kind of technology, they look at enhancing their productivity, growing their value into the business. Cybersecurity is the only field where generative AI is given to both attackers as well as defenders. Right? Both sides of the battlefield have access to this technology. So it's up to your interest and your ability, how best can you use this. Right? There are attackers who are already using it. If you are not using this stuff in your network, then you are already falling behind. Right? The attacks, which used to be traditional attacks before, on the left-hand side of this slide, you see some of these phishing attacks, social engineering attacks, ransomware attack, data breach attacks. Many of these attacks are kind of traditional attacks earlier. There used to be a reasonable defense against them. There used to be a solid defense against some cases. But after this technology has come in, what has happened? The efficiency of these attacks have gone through the roof. Because you don't need anymore the kind of technical depth what you needed to mount this attack. The scaling of these attacks is humongous. The public data which is available out there for the industries and the networks, they are being harnessed day in, day out, right? So making these attacks more sharper. Apart from bringing these attacks into a more lethal form, they are also introducing a new paradigm of attacks. These are AI jailbreaks, data poisoning, prompt injection, model evasion. It goes on. They're still early days, right? AI and ML are not new to cybersecurity, but the generative AI and the advent in the last couple of years is very clear this has changed the game, right? So in these kind of stuff, I think previous speaker talked about the guardrails for your modules, right? Some guardrails for the models. but it's very interesting. I'll give you an example of the guardrails for the models. If you ask the model about direct questions, then the guardrails comes into picture. But the scenario, you put the same question in a story. You narrate a story to the model saying, this is the character, this is the person, and let that character ask that question. There are chances that model will actually give out that answer. So the amount of attack, the variants of the attacks, I think we were talking about prompts are no more one-line sentences, prompts are no more two-line sentences, prompts are 500-line prompts are there, which is a cumulative prompts which are given to a model, model will be able to understand that, right? So these attacks are also coming into picture. So when you look at adapting some of this technology into your organizations, I think something which you should be cautious about, you should be looking at things, right? As an organization, I think you fall in 3 of these personas. The first one, where you're the simplistic user, where you're directly using a chat GPT kind of a thing, increasing your productivity, enhancing your value for the business. The middle one is a platform, right? It's a generative AI platform, where you are integrated your data and integrated using the open API, OpenAI APIs, for example, and enhancing your business value. Third one is you are those brave ones with a lot of deep pocket for building your own models, right? See, in all of these scenarios, whichever way your organization is, please look at the left-hand side. Who owns the security, right? You have to be very clear, like either a service user or a service provider. One of them have to own the security. And you need to be very clear about some of these aspects of things. Now, when you adapt generative AI in your technology, you have existing business controls, right? You have to ensure these business controls are made AI aware. Make sure that they are understanding what context you are introducing this new subsystem in. How is this context affecting what data is getting exchanged, what data you are vulnerable for, what is the data which is going out of your subsystem? Does your IT, the data governance structure is validated? Is your governance structure have gone out of the loop? So some of those things you need to look for. The most important part I would like to highlight is the last piece. AI subsystem is not magic. AI subsystem is not something where you come out of a result and you just straight away feed into your business logic and get the benefit out of it. There are multiple government regulations are coming in place focused on 2 items, explainability and traceability. You should be able to explain how you arrived at the decision. You should be able to audit it and understand why you got to a level where you got to and how you introduce this change into your business system. So look at this and see how you will be able to adapt some of these things, right? Now here, I think the important stuff is like you must be wondering, if I am not using the AI in my business, am I okay? No, you are not, because your attackers are already using it, right? So if you are not using generative AI in securing your enterprise, you are showing up for a gunfight with a knife in your hand, right? Be aware of that fact. There is no option left for enterprises not to use generative AI in your enterprise security. And it provides you immense value, right? So if you look at some of these things like accelerated threat hunting, there are scenarios where simulating threats and coming up with value for threats, these were like very difficult. The scaling of some of the data, what was coming to you, and using them to like generate remedies. I don't know how many of you guys walk into a SOC, Security Operations Center, the compromise indicators which comes up like they pop up like on the screen like bubbles, like pop, 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 pop in your enterprises. And when they pop up, there are hundreds, thousands come. Humans cannot look at all of them and remedy them. There has to be automation, right? All SOC books can be automated. Your responses can be automated. You can look at threats and you will be able to determine where the value is coming from. Especially look at, I think, the case management, hundreds of thousands of cases which come in, regulatory stuff, compliance stuff. Many of these use cases which currently exist, you should be able to leverage generative AI for that, right? So at the end of it, I would like you to take 2 things from this presentation. 8 minutes is a very short time to talk about this topic especially, but 2 things I would like to carry, right? 1, do not get into a Ferrari on a highway without the airbag. The second one, do not show up to a gunfight with a knife in the hand. So make sure your enterprises are protected by generative AI. Make sure you are leveraging this technology at the best of your capability. And you'd see that this is continuing to evolve. This is a fantastic technology, fantastic way of elevating this whole game. And again, as agentic AI comes into picture, there are multiple agents coming into which the value proposition which you can drive to your business is going to continue. And this is as good as you are raising the bar for everybody, right? There is no option of not using it. You have to use it, but be cautious, be aware of the threat and risk, ensure that you put guardrails in place, and leverage that part of it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.